Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. We're going to be talking about something that's pretty fundamental today, and I don't think we talk about it enough. We're going to be talking about dirt or soil, to be more precise, um, because I came across this number the other day, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently 52%, that's more than half of all of our agricultural soil, is already degraded
Why?
worldwide. Yeah.
That's pretty alarming when you think about it.
It really is. And, it's one of those things that we don't really think about.
Yeah.
We think about the environment and we think about, climate change and all these other things. But soil is like, it's literally the ground beneath our feet.
Mhm.
It's where our food comes from. If that's in trouble, then, we're all in trouble.
You're absolutely right. It's the foundation of everything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be diving deep, as we like to do, into a global movement that's trying to address this issue. It's called Save Soil.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. It's a movement of people
Mm-hmm.
all over the world, and they're working to, well, save soil, basically.
Well, that makes sense.
It does. Their focus, though, is on increasing the organic matter in agricultural soil.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that the key to doing that is through policy changes globally. So they're trying to get governments around the world to enact policies that will protect and revitalize soil.
That's a huge undertaking,
It is.
but it's necessary.
It really is. And, the person who kind of sparked this whole movement is someone you might have heard of. His name is Sadhguru.
Oh, yeah, no shock.
So he's a yogi and a mystic and kind of a visionary, really.
Uh-huh.
And he's been traveling the world talking about soil health and really raising awareness about this issue on a global scale.
I mean, he's known for that, really.
Yeah. So today we've got a bunch of different sources that we're going to be looking at. We've got information from the Save Soil movement itself.
Mm.
What are their goals? What are their strategies? What kind of impact have they had? We've also got some recent news articles about soil degradation and related issues like food security and climate change.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So our mission today is to really understand this Save Soil movement. What are they trying to achieve? What actions are they taking? And what kind of difference are they making in this global soil health crisis?
Sounds good. Let's dig in, pun intended.
So why is saving soil so crucial? The Save Soil movement really paints a pretty clear picture of the potential consequences if we don't. And they argue that it's not just one problem, it's like a whole chain reaction of crises.
Right, it's all interconnected.
Yeah. And it starts with, well, our ability to feed ourselves. I mean, soil is where our food comes from.
It is.
Right. So if our soil is degraded, then our food supply is in trouble. And the numbers are pretty scary. I mean, experts predict that we could see a 40% drop in food production in the next 20 years.
That's a lot.
It is. And at the same time, the global population is projected to hit like 9.3 billion people by then.
Mm.
So we're talking about a potential food crisis of massive proportions.
Yeah. That's a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just about having enough food. It's also about the quality of the food, the nutritional value.
Oh, right, because the soil affects that too.
Exactly. I mean, you think about fruits and vegetables, they're supposed to be good for us, right?
Right.
But because of depleted soil, the fruits and vegetables we eat today have about 90% fewer nutrients than they did just a few generations ago.
Whoa, 90%, really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So even if we have enough food, it might not be nourishing us the way it should.
That's really concerning.
It is. It's estimated that like 2 billion people around the world are already suffering from nutritional deficiencies.
Wow.
And that leads to, a whole range of health problems.
So it's not just hunger, it's malnutrition too.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the issue of water. We don't often think about the connection between soil and water.
I don't really. I mean,
No.
except for plants needing water to grow.
Right. But healthy soil actually plays a really important role in managing our water resources. When soil is degraded, it loses its ability to absorb and regulate water effectively.
I see. So it can't soak up the rain like it should.
Yeah, healthy soil acts like a sponge. It absorbs rainwater and then releases it gradually,
Hmm?
which helps to maintain water tables and prevent runoff. But degraded soil, it doesn't do that. So you get more water scarcity during dry periods, and then you get more flooding when it does rain because the water just runs off the surface instead of soaking in.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
It's a vicious cycle. And then on top of all that, there's the impact on biodiversity.
Right, because there's a whole ecosystem in the soil.
Exactly. I mean, we're losing species at an alarming rate. Scientists estimate that about 27,000 species go extinct every year because of habitat loss. And soil degradation is a major contributor to that.
Yeah, we're losing all these tiny creatures that we don't even see, but they're so important for the health of the soil.
They are. And it's not just the tiny creatures. We've also seen an 80% decline in insect biomass globally.
80%, that's a huge number.
It is. And insects are essential for pollination, for the food web, for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So losing them has a ripple effect throughout the entire ecosystem.
It's like taking out a crucial piece of a Jenga tower. The whole thing becomes unstable.
Exactly. And then there's the connection between soil and climate change. This is really interesting.
Yeah, I've heard about this, but I don't really understand it.
So, we think of forests and oceans as the big carbon sinks, right?
Right.
They absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But soil actually stores more carbon than all the plants and all the animals on Earth combined.
Really?
Yeah, it's incredible. So healthy soil is crucial for mitigating climate change. But if we continue to degrade our soil, all that stored carbon gets released back into the atmosphere.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a potential release of like 850 billion tons of CO2.
Wow. That's more than we've emitted in decades.
It is. So, it's a really big deal. And then, we haven't even talked about the human cost of soil degradation.
Right, the impact on people's lives.
Yeah. Soil depletion leads to failing crops, which means farmers can't make a living. And in many parts of the world, we've seen really tragic rates of farmer suicides linked to soil degradation.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And globally, it's estimated that like 74% of the world's poor are directly impacted by land degradation.
Wow, so it's really a social justice issue too.
It is. And the economic cost of soil degradation is estimated to be around $10.6 trillion a year.
10.6 trillion. That's mind-boggling.
It's huge. And then when people can't grow food or make a living from the land, they're often forced to migrate.
Right, they have to go somewhere else to find food and work.
Yeah, and that can lead to, conflict and instability.
Yeah, when resources are scarce, people fight over them.
Exactly. So soil degradation it's an environmental issue, it's an agricultural issue, it's a social issue, it's an economic issue, it's a security issue. It's all connected.
It's like the linchpin holding everything together. Okay, so given all these problems, what's the Save Soil movement actually proposing to do about it?
Well, their core solution is actually pretty simple, but it's also pretty radical. They want to increase the organic matter content in agricultural soils to at least 3 to 6%.
Okay. And how do they plan to do that?
Well, they've got what they call a three-pronged strategy. It's pretty interesting.
Three-pronged. Okay. Tell me more.
The first prong is to incentivize farmers to adopt practices that increase organic matter. So that could be things like, direct financial rewards or subsidies for sustainable farming methods or technical assistance to help them transition to these new practices.
So making it worthwhile for farmers to do the right thing.
Exactly. The second prong is to make carbon credits accessible to farmers.
Oh, that's interesting. So farmers could actually earn money by sequestering carbon in their soil.
Exactly. And the third prong is to promote preferential marketing for produce that comes from soil with higher organic matter content.
Oh, I like that. So consumers could choose to buy food that's not only healthier, but also better for the environment.
Yeah, it's kind of like a win-win-win. The farmers benefit, the consumers benefit, and the planet benefits.
So they're really trying to create a system that works for everybody. But, getting farmers on board is one thing, but they can't do it alone, right?
All right. The Save Soil movement recognizes that individual actions are important, but they're not enough.
Mm,
They really emphasize the need for supportive policies at the national and international levels.
right. We need governments to step up and create the right conditions for soil health to flourish.
Exactly. Because without the right policies, it's going to be really difficult to make the kind of systemic changes that are needed.
And those policy changes are more likely to happen if there's public support for them.
Yeah. That's why the Save Soil movement is so focused on raising awareness. They want people to understand why soil health matters. And they want people to demand action from their leaders.
They're really trying to build a movement from the ground up.
They are. And they point to a really interesting example of how global policy action can actually work. They talk about the Montreal Protocol.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was the agreement to phase out ozone-depleting substances.
Yeah. So back in the late 1980s, scientists were really concerned about the ozone layer. They'd found a hole in it, and it was getting bigger.
And that was a big deal, right?
It was huge. The ozone layer protects us from harmful UV radiation.
Mm-hmm.
So a hole in the ozone layer meant, increased risk of skin cancer, damage to ecosystems, all sorts of bad stuff.
Right. So what happened?
Well, pretty much every country in the world, 197 countries, came together and agreed to phase out the chemicals that were causing the problem. And the result was it worked.
It did.
Yeah, the ozone layer is now on the path to recovery.
That's amazing. So it shows that international cooperation can actually solve global environmental problems.
Exactly. And the Save Soil movement is hoping to replicate that success with soil health.
Makes sense. So how have they gone about, getting their message out there and trying to make a difference?
Well, one of the things that really captured people's attention was Sadhguru's 100-day motorcycle journey.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
So he rode his motorcycle from the UK all the way to India through 27 countries, covering over 30,000 kilometers.
Wow, that's a serious road trip.
It was. And along the way, he spoke at events, he gave interviews, he met with world leaders. He really brought the issue of soil health to the forefront of the global conversation.
And it seems like it really resonated with people.
It did. The Save Soil movement says they've reached over 4 billion people with their message.
4 billion, that's incredible.
It is. And they say that makes it the world's largest people's movement focused on soil health.
That's
It is. And they've had over 8,970 media stories about the movement. They've lit up 50 iconic landmarks around the world in support of the cause. They've got the support of over 11,150 corporations.
wow, they've really been busy.
They have. And they've even inspired 3 million children to write to their leaders urging action on soil health.
That's amazing.
It is. And, it's not just about big global events and international organizations. They've also had a lot of success at the local level.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, for example, over 150 cities across North America have declared March 21st as Save Soil Day.
Really? That's cool.
It is. So, you've got Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, San Diego, California, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Edison, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and a bunch of others.
That's pretty widespread.
Yeah. And they've also cataloged over 1,000 sustainable soil management solutions from 193 countries around the world.
Wow, so they're not just talking about the problem, they're actually offering solutions.
They are. And they're working with people on the ground to implement those solutions.
That's great to hear. And it sounds like they've gotten a lot of support from some pretty influential people and organizations.
They have. I mean, they've got the support of people like a Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, Dr. Jane Goodall, the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and they've partnered with a bunch of UN agencies like the UNCCD, the NFCCCC, the UNEP, the WFP, the IUCN, the FAO, the WHO.
They've got a lot of big names behind them.
They do. They've also got the support of the Commonwealth of Nations, the European Parliament.
So it's really a global movement.
It really is.
So it's clear that they've made some serious progress, but we also have all these recent news articles about the ongoing challenges of soil degradation. So what are some of the latest developments?
Well, one of the things that's really concerning is the increase in soil salinity. A recent UN FAO report warned that a staggering 1.4 billion hectares of land are already affected by excess salt.
And that's a problem because
Salty soil is basically infertile. You can't grow crops in it.
oh, right.
And another billion hectares are considered to be at high risk. So that's a huge amount of land that's potentially unusable for agriculture.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not good at all. And then there's the issue of dry lands. A UN study found that 40% of the world's land area, excluding Antarctica, is now classified as dry land.
40%, that seems like a lot.
It is. And those dry land areas they're expanding, they're getting bigger.
And that's because of climate change.
Partly, yeah. Climate change is making dry areas even drier. But it's also because of, deforestation and unsustainable agricultural practices.
Right, so we're kind of creating the problem ourselves.
Yeah. But it's not all doom and gloom. There was actually some really interesting news about a new scientific discovery. Some British scientists found that transplanting mycelium-rich soil from mature forests to new forests can actually improve soil health and help the young trees grow faster.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Mycelium is the underground network of fungi, and it plays a really important role in soil health.
So it's like we can use nature to help restore degraded land.
Exactly. And the Save Soil movement has been continuing their advocacy efforts at the UN level. At COP16, they presented a policy brief calling for more support for farmers to restore soil health.
So they're keeping the pressure on.
They are.
Yeah.
And they're also highlighting the link between soil health and mental health.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that connection.
Yeah. It's a relatively new area of research, But there's growing evidence that the health of our soil can actually impact our mental and emotional well-being.
Wow, it's like everything is connected.
It really is. And, we talked earlier about soil as a carbon sink.
Mm-hmm.
Well, regenerative farming practices, which focus on improving soil health, are becoming increasingly recognized as a key strategy for mitigating climate change.
So we can actually fight climate change by taking better care of our soil?
Exactly. And Sadhguru has been a vocal advocate for this at the recent COP conferences. At COP29, he spoke about the need to include soil in all climate discussions and to make sure that climate finance reaches smallholder farmers who are, really on the front lines of this issue.
Right, because they're the ones who are most directly impacted by soil degradation.
Yeah. And the UN has also recognized the importance of soil for climate change mitigation. They've said that healthy soil is a key tool for tackling the climate crisis.
So there's growing recognition at the highest levels.
There is. But there are also some pretty dire warnings. The UN has said that in some of the poorest parts of the world, soil degradation has gotten so bad that the land can no longer support crops.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the Safe Soil movement, along with some UN agencies, are predicting that if current trends continue, 95% of the planet's soil could be degraded by 2050.
95%, that's almost all of it.
It is, and that would be catastrophic. It would mean a global food crisis of unimaginable proportions.
So the stakes are really high.
They are. And it's not just about our physical survival. The Save Soil movement has been highlighting the link between soil health and human health, both physical and mental.
So taking care of our soil is really about taking care of ourselves.
It really is. It's about, the quality of our food, the quality of our water, the air we breathe, our mental well-being, the stability of our societies, the future of our planet. It's all connected.
That's a pretty big responsibility.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's also an opportunity. I mean, if we can come together and make the changes that are needed, we can actually create a healthier, more sustainable, and more just world for everyone.
That's a vision worth fighting for.
It really is. So I want to leave you with this thought. What can you do in your own life to support this movement? Maybe you can learn more about regenerative farming practices, or maybe you can support businesses that are committed to soil health. Or maybe you can just start a conversation with your friends and family about why this issue matters.
Right, because even small actions can make a difference.
They can.
Hmm.
And together, we can actually make a real difference in saving our soil and saving our planet.
I'm ready to dig in. How about you?
Let's do it.